about the show.
Hey, what's going on, party people? How's it going? Um, Sorry about that. Um, I wanted to give y'all another interview with another Michael Jackson tribute artist. Um, and this is a part two, and a sequel to Michael in the Mirror episode that I did a couple of weeks, like a month ago, with a tribute artist by the name of Dylan Knight. And because he has a show called Michael in the Mirror, I like to add another tribute artist that is also in that show named Michael Dan. And due to a little bit of a technical difficulty, you're going to see a little bit of a little skip. So I do want to apologize in advance. So go ahead and watch it. And also, if you're listening from iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify and other podcast streaming services. So, and also if you're watching this on YouTube, click the like and subscribe and comment down below for more content like this. So, here we go. Thank you, Michael Dan, for appearing on the Paul Altman Show.
Thank you for having me, Paul. It's great to finally catch up with you.
Likewise, man. So tell the viewers that may be watching this interview go down. Tell Not only just tell me, but tell the viewers at home a little bit about yourself and where you're from, if you're comfortable with that.
Of course. So I began my journey as a Michael Jackson fan and also tribute. It started when I was 7 years old. I've been doing this for about 15 years now. Um, it started off like pretty much any kid, they're uh, a fan of his music, and then they just see what an amazing performer and dancer he was, and not only that, but how effortless Michael made it look, and it just stood with me for as long as I can remember. And when I was younger, the first move I tried was the moonwalk, like any kid, and I couldn't get it. I couldn't get it for quite some time, actually.
Right.
And the day that I actually managed to do it correctly was unfortunately the day that Michael had passed away. Um, so I guess you could say I took that as a bit of a sign that I'm meant to learn more about him. And I didn't quite understand why at that point, because I would say that being a tribute artist is something you don't exactly wake up one day saying, I want to be a tribute artist, but you just kind of fall in there somewhere down the line. And after Michael had passed the same year, there was a another Michael Jackson tribute show that came to where I live. I live in Connecticut,
Right.
and I was only 7 at the time, so I didn't quite understand the whole concept of what passing really meant because I hadn't experienced that in my lifetime at that point. So when I saw this impersonator, I was thinking that somehow, some way, Michael Jackson was okay, and that was him doing a concert. And
Right.
my parents then explained to me that what I actually saw was an impersonator or a tribute artist. Um, and they explained to me like what they did, that they would wear makeup, they would have costumes and all that to look like that performer, and then they would emulate that performer. And it was just a fascinating concept to me, and it encouraged me to continue to, you know, study not only what impersonators did, but also Michael in general, learning his routines, learning his mannerisms. And a year later, 2010, there was a Michael Jackson tribute competition at a local mall, and it was held by a company called Legends in Concert out of Las Vegas.
Hmm.
And I was very fortunate to have won first place. And one of their judges was actually their Michael Jackson that was in that run of the show. And he had asked me how long I had been performing. I said I had only been dancing for about a year, and his eyes just kind of widened. He was like, "You could have fooled me. I thought you would have been doing this for at least 3 years." I did, as a kid, when someone that actually does what you hope to do someday, that means a lot, and it gave me more encouragement to continue and refine my look, refine my wardrobe, and of course, refine my craft because I want to give people the most authentic experience that maybe they didn't get when Michael was alive.
Right. And that is the most interesting thing to hear because I I I guess I didn't start dancing to like get full invested in dancing only when I was around 14 years old probably, and that was probably the year that Michael passed on. So being all that and winning middle school talent shows, because my mom had at least what my mom would say, she used to be a street dancer in the 80s and in her hometown, and my dad would used to play guitar in a high school band. So that instilled upon me. Like I think I said the same. I believe I said the same thing to Travis Payne, which I also happened to have on the show a couple of years back, and who I'm still in great contact today, which is a nice guy. And just the other day, he reached out to me, wish to say thank you. It was his birthday a couple of days ago, and
Oh, wow.
and yeah, and I said the same thing to him, and I believe that I think this is a little bit of a common link between us a little bit because we both started the same way a little bit. I don't know how old you were when you started, but I remember I was like 13 going on 14, and by the time I started dancing fully, I was about 14 years old. Started with middle school talent shows, and then high school morning meetings and whatnot, and and high school events and whatnot, and I guess me being a fan of Michael myself, I expressed a lot of things, including I was which I was able to meet the Jacksons at one point, which was totally a different thing, and I would say, I would always say, if I ever were to meet the Jacksons, I would tell them thank you for inspiring me and everything else. And when I did, I told him so. I, I remember telling this to Tito before he passed away, and that was the first and only time I ever met Tito in my lifetime, and he appreciated that. And I think because the fans and they would actually get a kick out of that, people wearing the outfits and stuff like that, and I could tell they really enjoyed that. So yeah, um, I think I think you answered my earlier question, but I will ask again anyway. If you didn't, what inspired you to pay homage to Michael?
It started off with, believe it or not, an insult. It started back when I was playing Little League Baseball. I know that seems like a weird connection, but it'll make sense. So when I was growing up, it was just my mother and I, and we didn't have a lot lot of money, but she always tried to keep me active as much as she could. She did her best, and um, the one sport that I did kind of gravitate to for a while was baseball. And sure enough, I collected a couple of baseball cards. One thing I noticed was that they had white batting gloves usually. Um, and I would bug my mom for a pair. I bugged her, bugged her, bugged her. But, at the time we didn't have money, but we were getting to my last year, and she said, "Okay, we'll get you a pair." I lost one of them, so one white glove.
Right.
Um, so quite literally, last game of the season, the opposing coach was shouting at me, saying, "Oh, Michael Jackson's up to bat. Watch out, everyone, bring it in." And I didn't know what to make of that at the time because I didn't know who Michael was before then. So I didn't know who they were, why they were calling me that. I thought they were making fun of me.
Right.
And I left the game pretty upset. And I had asked my mom, who is Michael Jackson, and she pulled up a video on YouTube of the Motown 25 performance of Billie Jean. And I just was hooked from there. I couldn't stop watching. She noticed that I couldn't be pulled away from the video because I couldn't believe what I was watching. The fact that, Michael could move so fluidly. Granted, that performance was a lip sync performance, but as a kid, I didn't really know. Um, but even so, the fact that he could sing live and perform the way he could and make it look as easy as he did was just incredible. You're hard pressed to find an artist that can do that nowadays.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
And yeah, it just blew my mind, really. Uh, and then from there, that was kind of what inspired me to just start with the moonwalk because the first time you see the moonwalk, you don't even know what you just saw. It's, that sense of magic that Michael wanted you to feel.
Right.
And that's the only word I can think of for it is magic. And it just led me down, you know, this path of wanting to perform. I started off just performing for family functions. Like we used to do a 4th of July barbecue every year when I was very little. Um, and kind of one of the last years that we did it, I actually um, did a set in between my uncle's band because my uncle was in a band at the time. And during their intermission, they actually let me hook up um, a CD. It was just that was all I had at the time.
Right.
I just popped in a CD and I would do a couple of songs for the family. So I did like Jam, Beat It, Billie Jean,
Right.
most of the classics. And that was kind of my first introduction to performing. And my family was of course very supportive and um, they encouraged me, especially my uncle. Rest in peace. My uncle did pass a year ago. Um,
Apologize.
but he was my biggest cheerleader, my biggest spokesperson in my love of entertainment, and I'll always remember him for that. And the fact that he wanted to kind of foster this love of performing as well as the rest of my family, I couldn't help but keep going and I I did, and I don't regret it ever. It's been one of the greatest opportunities my life has ever given me, and for the fact that I've been able to do things like I've been very lucky to have opportunities to travel to do performances now, and started actually going more national, which has been very exciting. And I don't think I could have done that without the people that gave me my start, which was my family.
Wow, that is amazing. Supportive family. I mean, my family is a little bit mixed about it. But but my mother has been a cheerleader as well. Um, my dad, my dad hasn't really seen a lot of my stuff, but he he pretty much allows allows that. Sometimes a little bit of criticism, but it's my dad, so I'll allow that because
Yeah.
he's still pretty much going cheerleader. And funny enough, we both had I guess we both also have another connection, which was baseball. I also did baseball myself during when I was before I started doing dancing, all that. And yeah, and yeah, and he was cheerleader. And I was kind of good at the baseball, but I'm more like a music side of things. And
Yeah. I grew out of it, of course. Sports were never really my thing. It was just the one that I happened to like more than the others. And like you were saying about your your mom being kind of your cheerleader, um, the one thing that I am very grateful for that, besides, the opportunities that this kind of career has given me is before my uncle had passed, he actually did get to see my full show put together in a professional venue, and just to see the look on his face, I could tell he was proud.
yeah, you're always gonna have that. I mean, you never know what you're gonna have until it's gone. And
Gone too soon.
yes, absolutely. And I'm gonna mix up a little bit of the questions I have. There are some a little bit of a throwaway question from what I have with Dylan Dylan Knight, which
Okay.
I had before. Um, okay. What is your favorite Michael Jackson song? Everybody has that one. There's a lot of Michael songs over the years that he recorded in his lifetime. But what is your number one favorite Michael song?
Paul, that's like asking me to pick my favorite child if I had one, but um, I would have to say I break my favorites down into two categories because I have a favorite to perform and then I have a favorite to listen to. Because a little secret is the songs that are typically in my show or in my particular set, I don't typically listen to outside of rehearsing and um, doing the performance, primarily because, it's the classics. We hear them all the time. I love them dearly, but Michael had so much great music to offer that no one listens to, other than I would say, fans that are, you know, deep into his catalog and know different songs like Money or Tabloid Junkie. Those are not songs that unfortunately the common crowd would know. So I would say if I had to pick a favorite to perform, it would be Billie Jean all the way. because everyone knows the minute that glove goes on, the minute you slap that hat on your head and you hear that percussion, you get hyped every time. And I
Right.
love that. I That's my favorite part of what I do is when I hear that audience get hyped for that song. Everyone loves it, everyone sings it. It's honestly one of the highlights of my night every time. As for my favorite song to listen to, I would have to say that goes to Keep the Faith off of the Dangerous album. And I like that because not only is it, in a sense, a the man in the mirror of the Dangerous album, I think that it also has a bit more meaning because Michael is also the one thing I've noticed about how Michael writes is that it's based on his personal experiences, what he sees, what he hears, what he reads. It's very philosophical in a way.
Yeah.
And I feel his meaning just deepens as his career went on. And he wanted to give you that feeling of even when times are hard, even when you think that there's nothing to hold on to, the one thing you always hold on to is faith.
Right.
And I believe in that wholeheartedly.
Absolutely. Um, yeah, if I could really list myself, and that what you said is really it's not really far fetched of what you said about keep the faith. And I think again with the again with the connections here, um, I believe that wholeheartedly. Um, but if I there were when I was still performing as Michael, which I don't necessarily do anymore, but because I am venturing as myself. But there's nothing wrong of dancing like Mike every now and then. And when I do, I do it for the love. And and but if I were to pick either to perform or listen to, we could separate two categories to dance to. Um, Again with the connections again, Billie Jean, myself, same way almost. But my first performance in high school was "The Way You Make Me Feel," um, because that was the one that drove the crowd more to me, and I think that one really helped me overcome my autism and how it all brought up all that love that that I felt that I was missing myself. Uh, in terms of like being accepted to, people would like me. And I think that after I did that performance, I think you have seen it yourself. Um, yeah, I mean, there's no way about it.
Yeah, I remember that one. That I It's been a while since I've seen it, but yeah, and that's cool that you picked something that was not like the first thing everyone would think of is Thriller, Billie Jean, Beat It, Smooth Criminal. You went for something something recognizable, but something a little off the beaten path.
Right? Yeah, and but my the second category of my favorite Michael song to listen to was is and always will be it. And this one's a little bit new because not everybody knows about it too much. I'm trying to really. It's hard to pick. It's hard to pick because there's so many. Even though even some of those unreleased songs that would be leaking all the time, which someone needs to step up their security on that.
Yeah.
Um, I would say
I would say On the Line because it's basically one of those soundtracks from one of those movies that Spike Lee did. Um, and not a lot of people know about that song. And that song's like it's like a melt the tempo. It's like it gets it pulls your heartstrings. Like if something were to pick your heartstrings, you know, and it gravitates that. And just to just to really, I can't really put it to words, but I think you quite get what I'm trying to really say.
Yeah.
Uh, Back to my next question. What's your favorite era that Michael has?
I would say that goes to Dangerous, and that is a little bit of a bias because my first DVD of Michael was Live in Bucharest, and that was kind of my master class in learning to dance like Michael. I would say that I didn't really rely on tutorials of how to do certain moves and all that. I kind of wanted to focus on what he was doing, not what other people were doing, whether it be some variant of that move or if it's not quite how Michael did it. I wanted to study him. And that DVD taught me so much. And it's probably my favorite costuming for him. It was the last era where a majority of his show was sung live. And the fact that he was just so inventive during that period when it came to kind of the effects that he did for like Thriller and all these different bombs and sparks. It was just incredible, and it'll always be as much as I love the other eras. I think that that one was always hard to beat.
Right. Um, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that, in my opinion, because again, if you, eh, I'll probably go to catch a lot of heat for this, but for for the majority of people that could be biased, is that not a lot of people can understand that sometimes it hits a lot of different because there are there are like what particular era that was introduced to a certain person and in that specific lifetime that it was introduced, the era that was introduced, and even though I was introduced to the Dangerous Bucharest tour, but my most like era the most is the Victory tour with the Jacksons because that was kind of like the height of the solo career and that the brothers were all grown up and as adults a little bit and they were still energetic, um, performing all those songs they ever did together. Um, Especially with all all that sequence looked like superheroes, looked like a musical version of the Avengers almost. Um,
Yeah,
and
kind of like when they're all backlit and then they're walking down the stairs, you hear each thud,
yeah,
and it's just like almost as if they have these like mecha boots on, and you just hear every thump, 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 and then the light reveals them. I do agree that is a very I would say that's a very special moment for Michael as well as the Jacksons as a whole.
yeah, and the seventh the other question is that because I'm aiming towards this biopic, which has been delayed, obviously. I,
Unfortunately.
yeah, and are you excited to see the biopic starring his nephew Jafar? because we seen all the leaks and everything.
I'm personally very excited to see it. Seen I've seen his photos, I've seen, videos of him singing his own music, and I think it was a great choice. I think that that was a great casting. And I've heard different stories as to why the film is being delayed from issues with one of the allegations being brought up, just reshots in general. I've heard so many different things, and it's unfortunate that it's being pushed back, but I'm hoping that, and I'm sure it will, seeing as Jafar is playing the lead, that it will be told in an honest and respectful manner. Um, because I would say that Michael has not always been the best represented in bio style
Biopics.
films. Uh, I can't remember the name of this actor, but I remember my co-star Dylan Knight did mention him from, I believe the biopic was called Man in the Mirror.
Yes,
Um,
yes. Flex Alexander.
Lex Alexander. Yes. I don't know where they were going with his look. I think that, if they, did a side by side, they should know that needs a little more. But um, I think that that film kind of made Michael seem more immature than he was. I think that Michael had his moments, but I also believe that he was a very intelligent person.
All right. Because apparently I'm running out a little bit of space and stuff, and running out of time a little bit. Um, but the last question that I'm gonna end in this episode is, what is the show that you and Dylan are doing, Michael in the Mirror, and tell us a little bit about this tribute show.
Yes, so Michael in the Mirror is a project that Dylan and I have spearheaded about 3 years ago. We did kind of a meetup, and we did a performance together. And I do believe in chemistry on stage. I believe in it very strongly. And I don't think that when you go to see um, every single tribute show that you always see that. And I think that that's unfortunate. But when Dylan and I were performing together, we knew that we had a click. We knew that we worked very well together professionally. We've been friends for over 10 years. We've been friends since I was in high school. And we had this idea of doing a show because I dance mirrored to Michael. So for example, kind of going off of the Chris Tucker reference, I was kicking with the wrong leg. Um, but we came up with the concept of when we would perform mirrored to one another to give a mirrored effect on stage. So like you would see on one side me kicking, and you would see him kicking with the opposite foot, and it would create a mirror image on the stage, which I've seen other tribute shows where it's featured more than one Michael, but I've never seen them do something quite like that. And I think it gives a whole new meaning into um, when we do the song Man in the Mirror at the end, because it's, kind of you looking at Michael in the mirror, but at the same time, you're also taking a moment of self-reflection. And that's kind of what we want to give the feeling of at our show is, we want them to have fun, but we want them to walk away with a message.
Yeah.
And I think that um, when we do our show, Michael in the Mirror at the Casa Loma Ballroom Friday, October 20th, 2026. I think that it's going to do very well, and we're both extremely excited to finally put it on stage.
That's amazing. That is amazing. Um, Michael Dan, thank you for appearing on this episode of the Palma Show. And I hope to see you guys in Florida in March. Hopefully when you guys bring back the show into Florida, because I know that you and Dylan was because of what Dylan has said that he was going to bring. I guess when the time comes, you're going to bring it to Florida whenever.
I That is our next steps. We are taking what we are able to do with this show, and we are hoping to bring it to the East Coast. As I mentioned, I live in Connecticut. Um, and one thing that I brought up to Dylan was the East Coast is such a hot spot for the entertainment world,
Yes.
and it's also a hot spot for those who love Michael Jackson. As a matter of fact, I came from a gig earlier today, out in Massachusetts, and it Michael will always be someone that is relevant, loved, and he'll never be forgotten. And we want to do our part in making sure that he is never forgotten.
Right. That's amazing. That is wonderful. That is wonderful. Again, Michael Dan, for appearing on the podcast, and we hope to see what you guys come up next.
Thank you for having me, Paul.